Hello everyone. In this lesson we will finish about extra pawn patterns. In the previous lesson we have learned how to win when you are pawn up in the endgame with the different combinations of minor pieces. We have learned that there are 3 steps to win that kind of endgame. The first step is to put your kings in the center of the board. The second step is to create a passed pawn. And the third and the final step is to use your passed pawn as a decoy and go with your king to the other side of the board and win the opponent pawns. In this position we have opposite colored bishops. This endgame is drawn because white will not be able to complete the second step. We will see that it is not possible to create a passed pawn. There is only one thing black has to be careful in this endgame, and that is not to allow white to create a passed pawn on the king side. After king f1, king f8, king e2, king e7, king d3, and let's say bishop e6, let's say that both of the kings are in the center of the board. Now white's a2 pawn is under attack, so let's say white is playing b3, king d6, bishop b4 check, king c6, king c3, g6, a4, king b6, bishop f8, and h5. So all black pawns are now protecting each other, and the base pawn on f7 is protected by his bishop. So even if we now create a passed pawn and use that passed pawn as a decoy, and if we go with our king to the king side, we will not be able directly to win any of black's pawns, because all of them are protected. That is another problem winning an endgame with the opposite color bishops. But white can still try to win the game by creating a passed pawn on the king side. Let's see how. After b4, bishop d5, now the g2 pawn is under attack, so we have to play g3, bishop e6, king d4, and once white king abandons queen side and goes to the king side, black will play the key move bishop b3, which will force now white to push a5, and now it is clear that white will never be able to create a passed pawn on the queen side because there will be blockade along these light squares and it's not possible to push these pawns forward anymore. King e5, bishop e6, king f6, king c6, king g5, king b5, h4, king c6, black will just mark time, and after f3 we have critical moment for black in this position. Here there is a chance for black to make mistake and to lose the game. If for example black continues to mark time here and plays, let's say, king b5, now white will be able to create a passed pawn on the king side by playing g4 move. And if h takes g4, f takes g4, bishop c4, king f6, bishop e2, king takes f6, king takes g6, and now it is clear that white wins this game because black will be forced to sacrifice his bishop for the passed pawn, and this is easily winning position for white. Or if after g4 black now plays bishop d5, then let's see how to get a passed pawn. Very simple, by capturing twice on h5. Now white is not 2 pawns up, he is still 1 pawn up, but this position is winning. It is winning because he has a passed pawn on the king side. Now he must sacrifice his bishop for h7 pawn, but first we need to set up the position in which we attack this a7 pawn, and now we will be able to catch the pawn on f-file by capturing bishop f2 when this pawn goes to f2 square, but we will create winning position like this now. Black is losing this pawn on a-file and white wins the game. This was also not simple, but it is winning if white creates a passed pawn on the king side. But when white played f3 and created a threat to get a passed pawn on the king side, there is a move which withdraws the game. bishop d5 move, the only move which draws. Now the pawn on f3 is under attack, and after king f4, king b5, g4, we never take on g4 because then we will allow white to create a passed pawn on the king side. We simply wait king c6, and after gh5, gh5, now the game is drawn because white will not be able to win h5 pawn without actually he will not be able at all to win the h5 pawn because bishop will go to f3 once king goes to g5. So safe position for black, and this is drawn. Now we are going to see the positions in which we have bishop in the extra pawn versus knight and knight and the extra pawn versus bishop. It is much easier to win when you have bishop and the extra pawn versus knight. The reason for that is that bishop is a long-range piece, and when pawns are on both sides of the board, it is pretty easy to win the game. White will start the game with b3, knight c7, a4, king c6, king c4. Now, since kings are already in the center, we start from the second step to create a passed pawn. Knight d5. We don't need to move our bishop of e3 square. We can just continue finishing the second step because, as we know from the previous lesson, winning with the pawn up in the pawn endgame is the easiest win. So of course capturing on e3 is bad because this is now a trivial win for white. So knight c7, black will just mark time. We cannot push b5 immediately because black's knight defends b5 as well, so first we play bishop f4 to force knight to move. And now we simply create the passed pawn and finish the second step. After king d7, king d5, knight d8 for example, king e5, we try now to go to the king side with our king and to win the other pawns. So now, for example, black can play in this position king c8, then we play king d6, f6, king e7, f5, and then just king f6, easily reaching king side, attacking and winning those pawns, easy win for white. But if black keeps his king around king side and uses his knight to blockade the pawn by playing knight b7, in that case we win like this: king f6, king e8, b6, h5. At this moment it may look like that white will not be able to win the game because there is nothing to attack, and black knight can successfully blockade the passed pawn, and it looks like there is no way to win. But white easily wins this game again by trying to create a passed pawn on the king side. After h4, knight d8, f3, our plan is obvious, we want to push g4 and get a passed pawn on the king side. Knight b7, g4, of course that capturing now is bad, because after h takes g4, f takes g4, next move is h5 and we get a passed pawn. So he plays knight c5, we take on h5, and now if, let's say, knight d7 check in this position, now king g7, g takes h5, and simply b7, b8, easy win for white. And if knight takes the pawn on b6, then just h6, of course, promotion of h-pawn. And if after g takes h5 black takes, then we just play bishop e3, attack the knight, so that after knight d7 our passed pawn on b file is protected. And if knight b7, just king g5, winning easily the pawn on h5, and h5 pawn now easily promotes. So this is how to win an endgame in which we have bishop in the extra pawn versus knight. In the position in which we have knight in the extra pawn versus bishop, we will see that this is much more complicated to win. This is winning position for white, but white needs to have very good playing technique in order to win this. So, how to start this position as white? If you think that b4 check is the best move, actually you are wrong. Because after king b5, knight d1, king a4, king b2, king b5, and let's say knight c3, there is king c4. And white is constantly activating his king along these light squares. This is still much better for white but white struggles in this position to win the game. That is why the best first move is actually a4, not b4. And after bishop d7, now b3. Now it is bad for black to play a5 and to try to blockade both of white's pawns, because there is direct knight c4 which immediately will win that pawn. That is why black will just mark time by playing bishop to c6. And now white will probably play f4 here, because white pawns are the best placed on squares which cannot be attacked by the bishop. Black will mark time with bishop e8, b4 check, king d6, and a5. This a5 move more or less is forced, because if we keep that pawn on a4 square and if we play king b3 to defend the pawn, then we will not be able to use our king for the battle in the center of the board, and we cannot make any progress like that. So we need, for the moment, to go away from the idea to create a passed pawn and try to focus on the center. So that's why a5 move is played. Bishop b5, so black now blockades b5 square very well, but we centralize the king, king d4, bishop e2, knight c4 check. Now dilemma for black. He can play king e6 and abandons queenside, or play king c6 and abandon kingside. If king e6 is played, look how to win. Now we go for a6 pawn. King to c5, king f5, but this may look like as a risky position because black king is also very fast attacking our pawns on the king side. b5, ab5, and first important move knight d6, and then we don't capture the b5 pawn, we don't want to lose time, we want to advance our passed pawn and somehow to use our knight to cover the bishop's path to a8 square. So after b4, now we play a7. After bishop f3, finally we have to capture the pawn. And now we just need to go with our king to b6 and try to play knight b7 to close the path. And if now bishop goes back to a8, then king c7, king g3, king b8, knight b7, and now this is the win. No matter that black has 3 passed pawns upon capturing f4 pawn, white queen will be very strong, and actually strong enough to stop all of them, because the pawns are still almost on the starting squares. If, of course, in this moment king takes g3, then knight b7 immediately covers the path, and this is also the same win. So this is how white wins the game if king goes to e6. If king goes to c6, then knight e5 check, king b5. Now it would be actually very wrong to win the pawn on f7, because after king b4 we lose both of our pawns on the queen side, and now it's a big question what will happen in this game. It's unclear position, because black also has very important and dangerous passed pawn on a file. That is why we need to defend our weak pawn, and we play king c3. Now f7 pawn is hanging, and probably black will play f5. So to be protected from knight's attack, black pawn has to stay on a square which has the same color as his bishop. But this has a big disadvantage, because it will limit the possibility of movement for the bishop. White will play knight d7, and if now, for example, king c6, knight f8, king d5, we started to win these pawns, and now we easily win the game because we finally create the passed pawn on the queen side. If after knight d7 black plays bishop c4, again knight f6 attacking the pawn, h6, knight d7, and now 2 moves for black to defend the pawn, because the threat is now knight f8 or knight e5. So black can play g5, or black can play bishop f7. Bishop f7 will create one very nice position. After knight e5, bishop e8, h4, and if black plays here h5, this is very beautiful position. Very beautiful position. This is Zugzwang. Look how king has no moves. Wherever bishop moves, it will be either winning the clear bishop or exchanging of the bishops, which will give us easy win in the pawn endgame. And also there are no pawn moves. Very nice zugzwang position. If king goes to a4, we win the game by playing king c4, king c5, and then easily winning the pawn on a6 file, on a6 square, and we got a passed pawn, and we have easy win here. Other line is this g5 move, after which, let's say knight c5, bishop d5, knight b3, knight d4. The plan is completed to force black king to move off b5 square, and after king a4 there are two ways how white can win. Very easy win is by playing knight e6, and now this is winning pawn endgame. This is winning pawn endgame because this f pawn is very dangerous and white easily wins. When black king goes to stop f pawn, then white will push b5 and get another passer on a file. Or white can play king c4 and now apply the plan of pushing b5 in a good moment and get the passed pawn on the queen side. It's actually here. If now king takes a5, b6 wins, or ba6 wins, even easier, or if black pawn takes on b5, then a6, a7 also wins the game because white will have knight d5 to cover bishop's path. That will be all about extra pawn patterns. If you want to see some specific content in my videos, please place the comment below my video on YouTube. Also take a look at these suggested videos and don't forget to like, share and subscribe to my channel.